Good morning, church. How are you?
Good morning.
Well, after we had the testimonies during the prayer session, I think we can already go home. Because that was some pretty good preaching. And I don't know, my brother went, but he said, just got a little sample of the heat if you're not listening correctly. Wow. Thank you, Peter and Esther. Beautiful. Sister Blake, good to see you. Speaking about heat, I don't know how many of you have been paying attention to the news. Someone sent me a list, and for fear of not remembering it all, I'm going to read it to you. California is on fire. Oregon is on fire. Washington State is on fire. The country of Colombia is on fire. Alberta in Canada is on fire. The state of Montana is on fire. You've been hearing about all these forest fires, yes? Been keeping track of them in the news? Greece is on fire. Brazil is on fire. Portugal is on fire. Algeria is on fire. Siberia is on fire. Enough for the fire. Texas, Houston is underwater. India, Pakistan, Nepal are all under massive monsoons underwater. Sierra Leone, Nigeria, with massive floods underwater. Italy, France, Spain, Switzerland, Hungary, Poland, Romania, Bosnia, Croatia, and Serbia are all under severe heat wave attacks. Southern California is under a heat wave attack. And unusually enough, San Francisco during this time of year has average temperatures of 106 degrees. Well, their new normal is now an average of 115 degrees Fahrenheit for this time of year. Meanwhile, North Carolina is also baking under heat. The volcanoes in Yellowstone have registered since June till 2 days ago some 2,300 seismic movements. A 5.3 earthquake just hit Idaho the other day. 6.1 earthquake with a tsunami alert in Japan. 8.2 earthquake with a tsunami alert in Mexico recently during the storms. Hurricane Harvey hit Houston hard. Hurricane Irma, we just came out of that. These two have registered to be the two greatest hurricanes in the history of weather. Jose is out there in the ocean going crazy, deciding who he's going to hit. Katia went into southern Mexico. They've both been sweeping the Atlantic. And last but not least, a few days ago, a solar flare 10 times the normal sizes of solar flares occurred. You probably didn't hear that in the news. Do you still believe that nothing is going on? The title of our sermon today is What's Happening? We know because the Bible tells us. Scripture reading this morning told us that when you see these things, know that the end is near. It's in Matthew 24, verses 31 and 32, I believe. Can you put that up there, brother? Yeah. Now learn this lesson from the fig tree. As soon as its twigs get tender and its leaves come out, you know that summer is near. Even so, when you see all these things, what things? All this. When you see all these things, know that it is near. Right where? At the door. In Matthew 24 and 25, we find a prophetic sermon. The sermon was preached by Jesus Christ himself. And it's found in Matthew 24 and 25. We won't have time to cover it all today. By the way, today's sermon is going to be short, sweet, and to the point. So you'll be going home very soon. Hey? You remember the last time I was here, I challenged the church, didn't I? You guys remember what I talked about? We spoke about that parable that Christ said about sending out his servants because he wanted to fill the house. You remember that? Yes. Well, we're going to kind of blame the storm for today's attendance, but that challenge still stands. And in case some of you didn't know, as if you hadn't had enough of me yet, I'll be back October 21st. So I'm challenging you still for that. So I'll be here, and I want to see the house full. October 21st. In this prophetic sermon that Christ himself preached, he just come out of the temple with the disciples, and he looked at Jerusalem, and he told the disciples, you know, everything you see here ain't going to be no more. And then as they sat in the garden over there, now as he sat at the Mount of Olives, verse 3, chapter 24, verse 3, if you want to follow it. As he sat at the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately saying, tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the signs of your coming and of the end of the age? And Jesus answered and said to them, take heed that no one deceives you. For many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will deceive many. And you will hear of what? Wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there will be famines, pestilence, earthquakes in various places. All of these things are but the beginning of sorrows. Wars and rumors of war. You still have Iraq kind of burning over there. Afghanistan still burning. Syria still burning. How about that little guy in North Korea? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say little guy. He's probably offended by that. But how about Korea? Night before last, another missile. What is the world saying about this? How about Iran? Iran is quiet in the news lately, but how about all that's going on over there? Wars? Rumors of war? Brothers and sisters, things are bad. And if we're not waking up to what's going on around us, look at the world. Nature is screaming. The world is convulsing. And we only have one thing left to do. And that's to finish our jobs.
Amen.
I'm sorry. A lot of you, sorry, you may not know me, but some of them do, and I kind of talk this way. So we need to finish our jobs. Christ is not back here yet because we are not doing our jobs. We need to preach the gospel. We need to finish this work so Christ can return. And we have it easy now. We just have to preach around minor things like Irma. You know, that's minor to us because we serve a powerful God.
Amen.
A God that spared us. You know, the size and scope of this storm could have totally devastated the state, but it didn't. Yeah, there are some bad places. Yeah, some little things happen here and there. I'm so upset I had half of one of my trees. Took all the branches. That's so horrible. But you know what? That's all that happened. I didn't lose power. I didn't lose water. We had food. Everything was wonderful. At my house, only half a tree fell on the lawn. Didn't even hit the house. It just fell on the lawn. So for 2 days, poor little Caleb had to chop trees and pile them out. I'm exhausted today, but praise God, I'm here.
Amen.
So I'm preaching around a minor circumstance. You want to know what preaching around difficult circumstances is? I've spoken to you about this before. How about in the time of the disciples? How about when people like Peter and Paul, used to be Saul, remember him? How about when all these people had to preach the gospel while they were being persecuted? How about that? How about trying to preach the gospel under those circumstances? I call you to the book of Acts, chapter 14. Just one small example. I can speak to you about 5 or 6 of them. But let's go to the book of Acts, chapter 14. Are you there? Oh, there you are. You are there. Wow. He's pretty good. And now it happened in Iconium that they went there to the synagogue of the Jews and so spoke that a great multitude, both of the Jews and of the Greeks, believed. Now, who is it that went there? If you go to the latter part of chapter 13, you will see that it was Paul and Barnabas. Okay? These two guys had been preaching elsewhere, and a lynch mob came up against them, and they stayed there quite a while preaching until the very last minute. But when they found out that there was a plot to literally assassinate them, they moved on to the next town, and they went to Iconium. And when they got there, what did they do? Did they just say, we better cool it and calm down and stop preaching for a while, lest we get killed? No, they went right into the synagogue in Iconium and preached.
Because they had the Spirit of God.
They had the Spirit of God, amen. But the unbelieving Jews, this is verse 2, chapter 14, but the unbelieving Jews stirred up the Gentiles and poisoned their minds against the brethren. Which brethren? Paul and Barnabas and the rest of them. they were preaching. Therefore, they stayed there a small amount of time. Oh, you're not following me.
Considerable.
They stayed there a considerable amount of time. In other words, they didn't care. The unbelieving Jews had stirred up the Gentiles, and their intent was to attack Paul. Therefore, they stayed there a long time. They know of the plan. They know of the plan, and yet they insist on staying there, and they continue preaching under these circumstances, speaking boldly in the Lord, who is bearing witness to the word of his grace, granting signs and wonders to be done by their hands. In other words, Paul and Barnabas were actually performing miracles and saving people and preaching the gospel and bringing people to Christ and explaining to them that the Messiah whom they have just crucified was the Son of God. And even though they were being persecuted and there were plots against their lives, they were still there at the synagogue in Iconium preaching the gospel. And look at verse 5. And when a violent attempt was made by both Gentiles and Jews with their rulers to abuse and stone them, it says they became aware of it and fled to Lystra and Derbe. These two are cities of Laconia, and to the surrounding regions. So when the chips were down and they were about to be literally killed by the unbelieving Jews and the Gentiles, they all fled. Oh, but then there's verse 7. And they were what? Preaching the gospel there, to where they fled. I can read you 5 after 12. Give me 5 more minutes. I can read you dozens of other stories just like this that are found in the New Testament, where the apostles were preaching the gospel under circumstances that you could not believe. And a lot of them gave their lives for it. So where are we today? I read you the list. Look at the news. Listen to what's happening. Listen to what's going on. Jesus is coming back. Ready or not, here he comes. Now, not only do we need to prepare ourselves spiritually, and mind you, I'm probably the worst one. I'm standing here preaching to you, but I'm probably not the best guy amongst you. So don't look at me like that. All right? We all need to get ready. This morning's Sabbath school lesson, learn to walk in the Spirit. Let's learn to walk in the Spirit, and let's do our job. To preach the gospel under any circumstances. We are so free to do it today. Look at the circumstances under which the disciples and the apostles had to preach the gospel. Literally fleeing from town to town. Death plots against them. Anybody put a death plot against you for preaching yet? No. We kind of rather wish they had. You get it? We need to be ready. We need to do our jobs. We need to walk in the Spirit, and we need to preach the gospel. Just look at what's going on around us. And if you, like me, feel you're not ready yet, let's work together. Pray for each other. Let's all get ready together. Because what's happening only tells us of the glorious return of Jesus Christ. See you October 21st.